Right now in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns are a top team and they honestly have an opportunity to make the championship again like they did last season. They have an amazing coach, they have a great overall team, a great bench, a veteran point guard like Chris Paul, Devin Booker, who is surely going to be one of the NBA's best players coming in the future, as if he's already not a top shooting guard right now in the league. However, it wasn't that long ago that the Phoenix Suns were one of the worst teams in the NBA. On the contrary, it also wasn't that long since the Phoenix Suns were the best team in the NBA. What I just said might sound really confusing, but in this video I want to talk about the rise of the Phoenix Suns, the fall of the Phoenix Suns, and the rise again.
Yeah, I started from the bottom, had to make it up. People always talking to me like I never did enough. Gotta help my mama, had to pay the bills.
Before we get into the video, if you guys could leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new with notifications on. I'm trying to hit 5,000 subscribers on this channel by the end of the year, and your subscription we greatly appreciate it. Let's get into the video. Now, before the Phoenix Suns were winning the Western Conference going on to the NBA championship, we gotta take it back all the way to 2003. The 2003-2004 Phoenix Suns would finish 29-53, and I mean, they weren't that good of a team. However, they did have guys like Stephon Marbury, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion. However, following that season, there was a pickup that they had that was very vital to the team's success, and that was re-getting Steve Nash back, because in the 1995 NBA draft he was selected by the Phoenix Suns, but only a couple seasons later he was traded to the Dallas Mavericks. And I mean, I think it's all fair game for the Suns to trade him because he was averaging about like 3 points his rookie season and 9 points his second season, and it's not like one of those things where he has high assist numbers but low scoring numbers. The man also had like 2 to 3 assists per those 2 seasons. However, it was in Dallas that he started to develop his game a little bit, and he became more of a scorer on top of also being someone that could play make with the basketball. So now you have Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, and they also had Joe Johnson, who was a pretty good scorer at the time. And they also acquired coach Mike D'Antoni to help coach this team, who actually helped coach the team the previous season. Now, coming into the season, they had a plus 10,000 odds to win the NBA championship, so even though they got better, not a whole lot of people expected them to do good. Their first season with that team, they ended up going 62-20, being the #1 team in the NBA. Everything looked great, and they had an opportunity to make their first NBA championship ever since Charles Barkley. Unfortunately for the Suns, they would lose in the Western Conference Finals to the Spurs in 5. However, the city of Phoenix had something to be excited about because this team was something special. The following season, they would have some success like they did last season, and they were actually the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. They made the Western Conference Finals, however, they lost to the Dallas Mavericks in 6. See, the Phoenix Suns were a good regular season team, and they were a good playoff team until it came to finishing to make the championship. Now, Phoenix had a problem that no one was talking about. They had the best offense in the league, they had the best pacing numbers, they were fast paced, the run and gun, 7 seconds or less offense was into play. However, their defense was not that good. They were one of the best teams in the NBA on giving up points, which is not something to be proud of. The next season was a little bit of the same thing, except they lost in the 2nd round to the San Antonio Spurs. And in 2007, they would make the playoffs again, but they would lose in the 1st round to the Spurs in 5. The following season was really weird. They made some moves like letting go of Joe Johnson, they brought in Steve Kerr as the GM, they fired Mike D'Antoni for Terry Porter, they also brought in an old version of Shaq. However, he did average 12 and 10, so I mean, he wasn't that bad. However, for the first time in a while, the Phoenix Suns would miss the NBA playoffs. They would also fire Terry Porter in replacement of Alvin Gentry. The following season, they were back to their winning ways, and they actually acquired Channing Frye but lost Shaq. They actually made it to the Western Conference Finals again, but they would lose to the LA Lakers. And it was after that the Phoenix Suns would go from one of the best teams in the NBA to a joke. Now, this is the part of the video that a lot of people remember about the Phoenix Suns. Between 2010 and 2012, they lost both Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash. The reason why they lost Amari Stoudemire was because they just didn't want to re-sign him. He wanted a big contract, which was fair because he was one of their franchise players. In 2012, Steve Nash was traded to the Lakers to help build the Lakers super team, and they actually did get 2 first-round picks in return. So within 2 years, you lost your 2 best players, and now you're in a bad situation. Now, the Amari Stoudemire thing was dumb, but I will say that moving on from Steve Nash was the best decision they could have made. He was declining, and at this point, it was just a burden in having him. Following the 2012 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns had the 13th overall pick because at that time they were more of a 500 ball club. However, the Phoenix Suns were in rebuild mode and they selected Kendall Marshall. Now, the pick actually seemed pretty smart at the time. However, as most people do know, the pick did not end up panning out. He would play for Phoenix for one season, and the season after that, he would actually get moved to the G League, or the D League at the time. However, they did start to acquire some guys like Louis Scola or PJ Tucker in hopes of replacing guys like Amari Stoudemire. This would ultimately fail, as most people know. They also brought in the second Morris twin, who they drafted Markieff in 2011. However, signing Goran Dragic in 2012 was the biggest move that the Phoenix Suns made at the time. Losing Steve Nash was not easy. However, Goran Dragic was trying to replace that role, and I wouldn't say he was Steve Nash, but he wasn't that bad of a player. Even though they did make some good moves, they would only have 29 wins, which would mean they were going to have a pretty good draft pick. Oh, and coach Alvin Gentry was fired in favor of Jeff Hornacek, a former Phoenix Sun. And because they had a 29 win season, the Phoenix Suns were awarded with the 5th overall pick, who they eventually drafted Alex Len, which most people know today as one of the biggest draft busts, as this was the 2013 draft where there were a lot of prospects, guys like Giannis or CJ McCollum. I know I'm forgetting a handful of guys, but this is just a couple examples of some hidden gems that the Phoenix Suns could have acquired. In 2013, Eric Bledsoe was traded to the Phoenix Suns, which was something that the Suns desperately needed. They also traded Louis Scola for Gerald Green and Miles Plumlee, and a first round pick. With the roster vastly improving, the Phoenix Suns actually went on to win 48 games that following season, as Eric Bledsoe, Goran Dragic, and all these other guys started to come together. Mind you, they had a rookie head coach, a rookie general manager in Steve Kerr, and they also brought in a lot more new assets, so the fact that this team was already able to do well pretty quick was impressive. Unfortunately, being in the Western Conference meant that the Phoenix Suns would not be able to make the playoffs just because they got 48 wins. However, now it seemed like the Phoenix Suns fans had again something to be excited about, and maybe they can make it back to the playoffs ever since the run and gun Suns. Heading into the 2014 NBA draft, the Phoenix Suns would go on to select TJ Warren and Bogdan Bogdanovic. TJ Warren would pan out as a player, but Bogdan Bogdanovic was a Euro stash. Now, the Phoenix Suns lacked a center, which was something that they desperately needed, so when it came to trying to draft and sign some players, you think they would go for a center. Well, that was not the case, and they got Isaiah Thomas, who later on in years would turn out to be a pretty good player, but for the Phoenix Suns, he was nothing close of it. However, now you have 3 point guards, and 2 of them are going to be starting, and 1 of them is going to be coming off the bench. You promised Isaiah Thomas a role, and Goran Dragic, who definitely deserved it, and you also promised Eric Bledsoe a role. And I don't think Goran Dragic or Eric Bledsoe is going to want to come off the bench. Because of the Phoenix Suns bringing on 3 point guards that were all promised a role, the chemistry was bad, and Isaiah Thomas was just not good for the team. With the trade deadline coming up, both Goran Dragic and Isaiah Thomas were traded, as Goran Dragic was sent to the Miami Heat and Isaiah Thomas was sent to the Boston Celtics, which in hindsight was the best move for both of these players. Oh, and they also drafted some kid named Devin Booker. I guess he went on to be okay, I guess. All jokes aside, some people would say this was the greatest draft choice that the Phoenix Suns had made in a while, and he was the 13th overall pick, so I don't think a lot of people expected him to pan out just like that. But with drafting another guard, the guard problems came back because they also got Brandon Knight because of one of the trades that they made on during the previous season. The Phoenix Suns were trying to sign LaMarcus Aldridge during that offseason, which definitely would have helped them. However, they didn't have the cap space. A couple moves later, they cleared up some cap space and they actually signed Tyson Chandler to a 4-year $52 million deal to convince Aldridge to sign there, with the reason being that LaMarcus Aldridge did not want to play at the center position. He wanted to move to power forward, and signing Tyson Chandler to that big of a deal at the point of his career would end up being one of the worst decisions that the Phoenix Suns would make. Now, I forgot to mention that one of the trades that they make to try to get LaMarcus Aldridge and to free up cap space was trading away Marcus Morris in exchange for some picks, which actually pissed off Markieff Morris because he was promised that he'd be able to play with his brother. That's why he took a pay cut, which ultimately led to some fights and some disagreeing with coaches, and this would basically get him traded. I'm not gonna lie, if I was promised I'd be able to play with my brother and I even took a pay cut to play for a greater team just for that opportunity, I'd be pretty pissed too. They also fired Jeff Hornacek during the season, and the following season their head coach would officially be Earl Watson. And now we're at the 2016 NBA draft, where the Phoenix Suns would select Dragon Bender, who again would be a big draft bust. They would also move up in the draft to get Marquise Chris, who would actually be a pretty decent player for them, and Tyler Ulis, who was a bootleg version of Isaiah Thomas. Like the Suns had a couple seasons ago, in this 2016 season they had that guard problem like I said was gonna happen. Now, if I were to tell you that the Phoenix Suns thought that Brandon Knight should have a bigger role than Devin Booker, you would probably think I'm crazy, and the Phoenix Suns were crazy for that. However, Earl Watson was actually pushing for Devin Booker to get minutes, which started problems inside the organization. I think a lot of Phoenix Suns fans remember the whole Bledsoe situation where he tweeted, "I don't want to be here," and he would be traded that season. Heading into the 2017 NBA draft, they would botch another first-round pick in Josh Jackson. The amount of prospects I can name that they missed out on would honestly be insane, and I'd probably want to punch my laptop. Of course, they had their worst season, only having about 18 wins, which would reward them the #1 pick in the following year's NBA draft. With that pick, they selected DeAndre Ayton, who was actually the best pick they could have made. Some people say, oh, they could have got Luka or they could have got other guys, but I think that was the best decision they could have made. They also drafted Zaire Smith, but then they would trade him for Mikal Bridges, which you guys now know as one of the biggest draft steals in a long time. When the Phoenix Suns got a European head coach by the name of Igor something, and I mean, he turned out and he was fired after just 1 season. Despite having 19 wins, the Phoenix Suns somehow got the 6th overall pick, which if you ask me is complete bullshit. I don't know how that happens, but thank God the Phoenix Suns got Cameron Johnson, because if that didn't happen, I would probably punch my laptop. In fact, if you saw the Phoenix Suns get blown out by 50 on opening night to the Portland Trail Blazers on their 50th anniversary, yeah, you could punch your laptop at that point too. They would bring in Monty Williams, and now the team looked a little bit different, but they weren't really expected to do much. However, they did win 34 games that season. However, that's not the reason why it was a turning point. See, the turning point would be in the bubble. After the NBA was shut down due to a Rona outbreak, and this was at the time when Rona was very new to the world and everyone didn't know what to do, Phoenix would be invited to the NBA bubble, but they were mostly to be filler games. No one actually thought this team had a chance to actually do anything or even win games, and I was one of those people, because I mean, did you really think like the Phoenix Suns were actually gonna have a chance to make the playoffs? Well, the Phoenix Suns actually went 8-0 in the bubble, being the only team to do so, and they were only a couple games of certain teams not winning their matchups for them to not even make the play-in. Some people would say this was a disappointing end, but I highly disagree, because this showed a lot of people that, hey, the Phoenix Suns actually have an opportunity to be something. After the season ended, a lot of people knew the Phoenix Suns had potential, and they actually were able to get Chris Paul via a trade. During that offseason, not only did they get Chris Paul, but they got Jay Crowder, who definitely was a big help, which helped them make the championship. Mind you, this was literally right after Jay Crowder was with the Miami Heat and played in the NBA Finals. They would go to the NBA Finals the next season, however they would lose in 6, and now we're at today where the Phoenix Suns are the 2nd best team in the NBA, currently fighting for the 1 seed. I think this goes to show that just one player can honestly switch your organization, and you can rise and fall as fast as the old Phoenix Suns did, so hopefully the new day Phoenix Suns do not do that. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. This took a pretty long time to make, and honestly I had a lot of fun doing this because I didn't know a whole lot of history about the Phoenix Suns, like with the run and gun Suns and all the rebuilding and stuff, so this was fun to make. If you guys want to see another video like this, make sure to let me know. But with that being said, if you guys did enjoy it, leave a like, comment, subscribe with notifications on. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have an amazing day, take care. Cue that outro for the one time.
Everybody fuck with me cause I got a check. I ain't going hard enough, my mama told me go harder. I'ma pull up with a 45 and I'm